Good morning, champions. Coach Tina here. Guess what? It's Tuesday, and I don't normally go live on Tuesday, but I have a question for you. Here's what I want to know. Who remembers summer reruns? I do, because it used to be your favorite shows, and they still kind of do this, but now there's so much stuff, it's hard to see. But your favorite show would come on, and you would watch it through the fall, and then just right before Christmas, they would take a break, and then it would start up again in January timeframe. And then at the end of the year, they would cut it off. The series was over, and you had to watch reruns over the summer. So guess what? I am running some reruns this summer as an experiment, mostly to work on the technology a little bit, but also because I'm going to be focused on some things over the rest of May, couple days, June, July, and August to get things ready for the fall. And I want to be able to experiment with some things that I think are going to be useful. So I am about to start the replay of the summer planning workshop that I did about a week ago. And I think you're going to love it. I wanted to get it into the community and have it available because I would love it if you guys would jump on board my upcoming challenge. It's a 3-day masterclass. It is going to be held. I'm going to be doing an evening session that starts tonight at 8:30 Eastern time in the evening. And it'll take about a half an hour, and we'll have a little bit of homework. And then in the morning, there is another session. So we're going to be doing 3 days in the evening and 3 days in the morning. And the morning session is going to be a replay of the evening session. So you're not going to miss anything if you can't do both times. But I'm going to be monitoring the messaging on it so that I can be more involved when we're having our conversations. All right. So I'm really excited about this. I want to see how it works. But before anything else happens, I want to get us started on our replay of the summer planning workshop. And I am going to start it now. Yet, but it will be available. This is one that I'm planning to edit and use in the future, so I'm pretty excited about this one. What I want us to do is to think about our summer plans and have some time where we're really working out what we could be doing this summer so that we can have fun, we can enjoy the things we normally get to do while we're in the summer, but we also get the things done that we know are important and that we are really wanting to have happen. So I'm excited to share this information with you. This is the first time I've done a workshop like this, and I wanted to kind of tap into our creative juices. So we're going to see how that turns out. I think you guys are going to like it, but it'll be fun for us. So as we look at our summer, and conveniently, I have the PowerPoint thing over the top. What we're going to talk about is why we would want to make a plan for the summer and how are we going to make that plan fun? And then how are we going to make sure that what we do want to do this summer happens? And that, I think, is the key to all of it. I have been a teacher for many, many years, and summer was always something that we looked forward to with so much excitement, right? Like as a teacher, I was just happy to get a break. But then I had my children, and my kids were always just thrilled with summer, right? And summer was this time where we were to go off and we were going to have all these great adventures. We had all these things, and we would jump into some of them. But by the end of the summer, there would be this feeling of what didn't we get done? And then the heaviness of summer came upon us. And that made it not as much fun because we weren't actually accomplishing the things that we wanted to do, especially me as the mom. I was now activity director, but I still had my list of things that I needed to do. And so this is my hope that we would be able to work out the plan, make it fun, and then make sure that it happens. So here it is, and I have conveniently covered up all of my spots. There we go. All right. So I wanted to start by asking, what is your favorite or best summer memory? Of all the summers you've had in the past, what was the summer that really hits home as being one that you really remember? And you can drop that in the chat, or you can come live and go ahead and talk with me. Either one will work. Would love to hear if there's one that just really stands out to you. And while you're thinking of that or typing it in, I know that I was a child of divorce. So I had my two families. And the way that it worked out, we were in Northern and Southern California. So there was a airplane trip usually involved in the summer. But I would leave the home that I was used to, and I would go and I would spend time with my dad, who was an entrepreneur. So he was always working, and my stepmom. And my stepmom was a stay-at-home mom, and she always had this fun list of things that we were going to do over the summer. But the one that really stood out, we did this many summers, so it really was imprinted on my mind, but she would take me to the beach. Now, I was a beach girl. I was in Southern California, right? So I was used to the California beaches. But Northern California beaches are not the same. They're more rock type beaches. So it's not the sand like I was used to. They were little tiny pebbles. And it's cold in the San Francisco Bay Area versus sunny and warm all the time like it is in the Southern California areas. So when we would go to the beach, it was this big excursion. Not, number one, it wasn't close. But when we would get there, it was usually foggy. If we were going to get out of the traffic in the San Francisco Bay Area, we had to go at times when it was still early in the morning. And so the fog would be heavy and it was chilly and it didn't feel like the beach that I was used to. But it was so different that it piqued my memory. I mean, there were these rocky coves, and we could go explore and see the little sea creatures and everything in the rocks, but we had to wear tennis shoes. Like, it wasn't like my old time in the beach. And then because we were out kind of in these remote areas, it wasn't like the Southern California beaches where we had the boardwalks and the vendors and everything readily available. We had to bring all of our food for the day. And so we would have chips and sandwiches and little fun desserts and things that we would eat at the beach at our picnic. And then because we were there all day, we would have to find things that would be more fun to do, because you couldn't just lay in the sun and relax because it was cold. You had other things you had to do. And I know that sounds crazy, but what it did is it imprinted in my mind this special memory, because she was taking time out. She was doing something that she didn't normally do. It was an adventure that we went on. And one of the things that does make it special is they have since moved. They live in Canada now. And yet they go back to California often. And so she went to California not too long ago, and they drove along the beaches that we used to go to. And she took some pictures and she sent them to me. And she said, "Do you remember those summers and how much fun it was?" And I did. And it was a cool look at the adventures. And I think that's what happens to us a lot is we have our normal everyday, it's a certain way. And then we have that vacation or that thing that's out there, and it puts us in a different place, and we experience it more emotionally, it's more impactful to us because it's different than the norm. And that's what I like about summer is different than the norm. It's a set aside time, and it's all about how you approach it, right? So I love, Deborah says that she would go to Oklahoma with her aunt. Fun. She was really crafty, and they did lots of crafts over the summer. And yeah, lots of fun. And I bet you whenever you do a craft now, you remember those summers with your aunt. And Kate remembers spending time at the beach with her family when she was little over the summers. You guys, there's something about the beach that just calls to me especially, but I know that other people as well, right? That's why the coasts tend to be the most visited. It affects our senses. And I think the beach especially, because there's so many sensory inputs. right? We have the warmth of the sun, we have the texture of the sand. It's different in our hands and our feet. There's lots of noises, the seagulls, the people laughing. There's that great ocean smell that kind of wafts over you. And it's there's always this visual excitement, the roar of the waves, or when you see a creature out in the water or something. There's something about it that excites our brain. And then we have a memory because of it. And the memory sticks because all of that extrasensory stuff happened to us during that time. So if you've done any brain research, they have said that when we can tie memories to very sensory experiences, that's what sticks. And I think that's really important when we talk about summer planning, because we want to create some of those moments in our planning to make it stick. Because there's a lot of summers I don't remember what I did. They were just same old, same old. Nothing stood out. Nothing peaked in my mind to say, this is a special experience over the summer. And so we want to address that and make sure that as we do our summer planning, we're making it special. We're making those memories, those experiences that will stand out to us for years and years and years. I think that's a real important place to be. All right. Oh, and we just went back to the beginning. I love it. What happens is it's covering itself up each time I do it. So what we're going to be doing is exploring our bucket list for the next 90 days. And one of the reasons we're doing this, I mean, I do 90-day goal planning on a quarterly basis. Summer doesn't quite fit into the quarterly basis, but we can still use those 90-day principles for our goal setting. So one of the things we can think about is that during the summer, we're more relaxed. The days are longer. It's easier to just sit back and go to the beach or do something like that. And so we can get lazy, which is a good thing. It's good for our system to have that relaxation again, but letting things slip creates that backward slide sometimes. And all of a sudden we come out of the fog of summer and we're like, uh-oh, I just went through a whole bunch of stuff and I didn't necessarily have the impact on that summer that I was expecting. So we don't want to let things slip. We want to have fun and we want to relax, but we don't want to let things slip. So having our bucket list, and it's interesting because the bucket reminds me of a container. And I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always out there watching new courses, reading books, learning, right? And not too long ago, I heard a speaker talk about a container. You need a container to put the things you're learning into. Now, a lot of us rely on our brains, but as we get older, that can be hard as well. And so I have my notebook with my thousands of ideas, I'm jotting everything down. That's a container in a sense. But I like the idea of having our bucket list be our container for what it is we want, because there's a process that comes from taking something and putting it into something else. That's a brain development skill. That's why little kids, when they're starting to learn what it's like to be alive, right? One of the first skills they develop is taking things and putting them into others, or taking things out. And that's so important when we think about our learning, that we want to have a place for the learning to land. And the same goes with our 90 days. When we have our bucket list of things we want to do, it's concrete, it becomes real. And that's when it's possible to get the things done, because we're not going to forget about them. And that bucket list allows us to know that we've got it written down somewhere, we've got a plan, and that allows us time to get the things done and fit other things in. And that enjoyable planning time will allow us to focus on what really matters. So many of you have heard the idea of the rocks, the important rocks. And so if we were to fill our bucket with a scoop of sand, and then we wanted to put some rocks in it, they wouldn't fit because the sand would be taking up all of the volume. But if we dump out our bucket and we put the rocks in first, and then we fill the sand. The sand would work its way into the bucket all the way around. Now, we might not be able to get as much sand in, but the things that were important, we would be able to carry in that bucket. And so we want to think about the rocks, where our visualization of going to the beach. When I would walk along the beach, my favorite thing to do is to collect rocks. In fact, I have a bunch of them on the side of my desk here. So I like the ones that feel a certain way in my hand, the ones that are really pretty colors, or the ones that are really unique shapes that have that different texture to them. So when you're going along the beach, you naturally pick up these little treasures, and you need a place to put them. And so we're going to be creating a bucket list, a place to put our treasures in as we're together today. And let me know in the chat if this is hitting home, if this is making sense. I love it. Mary is sharing a memory, so I'll share that while you guys are putting in about so far if this is hitting home. So Mary says she's spending time, her summer memory was spending time with her mom, who's no longer with her. Sorry to hear that. And taking her to her favorite places to eat. Yes, yes. And my mom loves the beach as much as I do. She is living with us now in Oklahoma. She's from California. She moved out 2 years ago now. And I think it really, who doesn't miss the beach, right? It's so easy to miss the beach. So we are going to be moving into a calendar. A calendar is another way for us to have our container. And a calendar can be as easy as our phone. It can be, a lot of times will in my notebook just write out Monday through Sunday and put the actual days on it, and I will jot underneath to give myself that picture on one page and something that I'm carrying around all the time. But whether you have a physical calendar, a digital calendar, or just a piece of paper, it's really easy to get a calendar. And I meant to have my copy in front of me. I go to Google and I just print off a blank calendar of the months. And so my recommendation is that you do this. And I have made them. I'm not sure if I can share documents in Zoom now. Used to be, if I was in Facebook, I could put them up. And what I'll do afterwards when I post this final is I'll make sure that I have this little calendar sheet for you. But what I did is I made May through September. Now, we're in the last 2 weeks of May right now, so 11 days left in the month of May. And this may not be your summer yet. You might be not starting it till June, or it might be that you're in summer already. So you'll have all of May, and I'll go all the way through September, mostly because we don't want to just condense the 90 days into just 90 days, right? Like having a little bit of lead time into what's happening in September will allow you to hit the ground running as well. So I made a little packet of May through September, and I just go on this calendar and I put my big rocks on there. Usually that's events that I've planned, like we're having a family reunion in Canada, so that's going to be a time period for me. One of our kids are coming home for the 4th of July weekend. My ex is getting married, so they're going to be home. Yay for me, because I'm going to get to see them. They'll be doing stuff with him for a little while, but then he's going on his honeymoon. So I'm going to get the kids. So I get the benefit of having them here and enjoying them during that time as well. And then so I'm going to be blocking out those times. And once you get the events down, then what I love about the calendars in this format is then I can see how many weeks I truly have blocked off for summer. And then as I look at the things that I want to do in my summer, I can be fitting them in. And while I may not know what days in the summer I'm going to be doing, being able to say, okay, I'm going to devote this week to this project. And this is a good chunk of time for me to work on this one. And like for me going out of the country, when I go to Canada, I don't have good internet while I'm there. So because I run this community and I have things that are going to be up and needing to be posted in the community, I have to plan out being able to post those things automatically. And so that'll all happen as I look at the big chunks of time. I'm sure you guys are all aware of how that all works, but good to say it just so that we know for sure what we're doing. And then what I'd like for you guys to do, whatever list you have, whether it's you're going to be putting it on this calendar or whatever. And the fun thing about these printed ones is I can just turn over the blank sheets and write down all the things that I want to do. I'm a big one for dumping your brain dump of everything that's in your mind. Now, these would be all the things you would like to do in this 90 days. And you guys, if you've worked with me at all, you know I don't like limiting myself at all. So, like, what are all the things you'd like to do? Like for me, I'd like to put down go to the beach. Now, how am I going to make that happen? I'm not making beach activities. But then again, you know, we're going to be landing in Seattle. Maybe we could take a day excursion and go. And so your mind, when you give it some suggestions, can start to take it to another level. But until you tell your mind what it is that you really want to do, you don't know what's lurking in there. So giving yourself this chance to just dump down everything that would be fun. Maybe it's doing a craft you haven't done in a while, right? Bringing back that memory of something that was special to you. Maybe it's going to that favorite restaurant that you love but haven't thought about in a while. Maybe it's just getting into a place where you can kick around in some sand. But I don't like to limit anything, so I would write everything down. And then if it's going to cost money, put a dollar sign, or if you're like one of those restaurant thingies, you could put multiple dollar signs for what it would cost. But that just helps your brain, you know, kind of as it goes through the list, it can be like, well, here's some stuff that I could do that doesn't cost anything. So maybe this is more opportunistic, right? And so you could be looking at that big list of things. And then as you're looking at it, you want to star the things that you must do, so that your brain again can take into account these are going to be rocks. Now, maybe they're going to be pebbles, maybe they're not the biggest things you have to do, but the things you know you need to take care of, you want to give them that star so that your brain is thinking, how can I fit these in? And I am going to give us a little bit of time for you to make a little bit of a list. So we'll go to a 2-minute timer. I don't have the timer on here, so I'm watching it on my own. But if you want to add anything to the chat, maybe some of the things, if you don't have anything handy and you just want to put it into the chat, I'll make sure we get the transcript of this later. So you could use the chat to write down your list. And then I'll be quiet so that you can have your time. My dream was for us to be listening to some summery music, but there's the copyright issues when we do the Zooms. I can't put it out in Facebook if I do that. So apologies, because I can't play the songs that I would play. And I'm going to play along with you guys, make sure that I get all of my things down. About 1 minute left. All right. Hopefully you're finishing up your list at this point. I put some fun stuff down that I wasn't expecting, things that came up that I wasn't thinking about. For instance, I put, I want to read a fiction book because I do a lot of nonfiction reading and I love my fiction books, but I drowned in them, right? Like I totally escape and I can't stop reading them. So I have to kind of hold back on letting myself read. But it's summer, right? Like, how fun to go out, maybe sit on my front porch, get a little bit of vitamin D rays from the sun, and just sit and read for a little while. So that would be fun. And it reminded me that the library close to us is having an adult summer reading club, and you get points and prizes for reading so many pages. So I'm like, oh, that totally fits. I can add that to my book club part. Um, and then I thought about a summer drink night. I know that sounds kind of silly, but I'm like, I love those fruity, summery drinks. So, like, maybe each week I could come up with trying a recipe. They have those mocktails now and stuff. And I could just make it a fun thing that we do on date night. That could be an interesting experience. So, if you have any to share, if you want to, that would be really fun to see what you guys came up with on your list. And then, oops, I've skipped ahead a couple here. So sorry about that. Okay. So what we are going to do next is we are going to build some castles in the sand where we turn our dreams into reality by having, you know what? We did skip. How can we make the list fun? So what we want to do is take our list and think about making it fun. Like I was saying about the drinks, just taking something that you have an inkling of and then taking it and turning it into something that kind of jazzes up your world. So before we can make the list fun, we have to get a definition of what fun is to you. And all of us are going to have different definitions of fun, but be thinking about that. Kind of ground yourself on the idea of having fun. And then one of the ways that we can make things fun is to gamify and do things that remind us, like if your family was like mine, you went on a summer vacation together. We didn't do it often, but there was that time where we would like go to the cabin or whatever. And there was this long period of time in the car. And driving was not fun, right? That was the boring part of the vacation. But we would play games in the car. And one of them was like, I'm going on a trip and I would bring a blank. And we would do it in alphabetical order. And it wasn't really that the game was fun. It was that the game took our mind to something else and allowed us to, you know, have some laughs because what people would pick would be interesting. But it just got us thinking about things a different way. And so when you're making your list and you're looking at the items there, if you can make it more fun, you're more likely to do them, right? So maybe you had a list of things that you know you need to get done, but that aren't necessarily things that you think are fun. Like for me, emailing and creating my list of correspondence with people is not a fun project. There's something about that that is just, it's like fingernails on the chalkboard. I do not like that sound. Knowing that I have to sit down and write a bunch of emails out, oh, it just hurts my heart. But if I make it fun, if I make it challenging, if I make it, so lately, one of the things I've been doing is playing with AI. And I made a pact. I was like, I am never going to use me. But what's fun is I can take AI and I can ask it a question and like an email, like I can write my email out and then I can ask AI to do it and I can compare and see how much like a computer I've become. You know what I mean? Like I am amazed at how close the computers are coming to what it is that we're wanting to do. And that's fun for me, playing with technology. In fact, when I made this PowerPoint, this was out of Canva, and I love Canva. I've been using it for a while, but when I went into the presentation mode this morning, it said, would you like to make your presentation using AI? And I went, well, that's kind of silly. Like, what are they talking about, right? And it said, you just need 5 words. And I added a bunch because I'm like, oh, I'm going to put all this in here because I want to see what happens. And then you press a button and it immediately created this PowerPoint with titles, with pictures based on going to the beach and having fun. Now, I went through it and I changed the titles and I picked new pictures, but all the layout was there and all I had to do was put my words in. I thought that was pretty cool. So while I resist some of the AI, I can see the benefit of it as well. And it made it kind of fun because I was like, wow, that was simple. Now, the, sometimes the fun part is the creativity, right? Is the thing that I'm trying to do. And the technology or the structure behind it isn't as much fun. And so it made it fun to have it created for me. And all I had to do was add my personal flair to it. So, going to be thinking about that. Kate said one of the things she wants to do is spend more time in nature over the summer. Perfect. And, that's a perfect example of when we make a goal and, we have that intention. And you probably would like to spend time in nature all the time, right? But there's something that's holding you back from it, or else you'd be doing it all the time. And you wouldn't be saying right now that you want to spend more time because you would already be doing it. So that's what we want to do, is kind of evaluate our list and start to think, am I going to do these things on this list? What's going to make it so that I am excited? And I'm a math person, so I understand that not everybody loves math or numbers, but quantification of things is really important. So when we make a goal that says spend more time on something, we need to add that extra layer where we might say, I'm going to spend one extra time a week that I spend in nature. Because when we give it the, I'm going to do this once a week command to our brain, then the brain says, hey, it's been a week. We need to go and do this thing. Because then it can check that off a list. It can't always check more time, but it can check 3 times a week or once or 5 times over the summer, I want to do X. Does that make sense? So I'm really hoping that we'll start to see some of our own areas where we might struggle and prevent them up front. And so with that, we are going to do something a little bit fun. I kind of gave you a preview a little bit ago. Look, it took me all the way back. I'm so sorry, you guys. I see what it's doing. It's putting a little line in. It thought up that line, ocean of opportunities, by the way. I thought that was a pretty good line. I left that one there. Okay, we're going to my worksheet. And I have this worksheet to give you, and I am going to try to see if I can put it in the chat. And okay, I'm going to upload this file. Now, the thing is if you can't get it, it's not a big deal. And you will be able to do this without it, right? Because it's just a very simple drawing. And as you can see, it is a drawing of being on the beach. Palm tree in the distance, the waves just nice and calmly. And then there's the sand bucket, a cloud with a rainbow. And I drew that rainbow, you guys. And so full disclosure, I am not a good artist on the computer at all. But I needed to make those lines curve the way I needed them to because I wanted them to go into the bucket. So sorry. And then the sun. Okay. And so we're going to make planning out what we want to get done this summer fun by using a simple coloring drawing. And if you don't have access to the worksheet or can't get to it, this is so easy to draw, you guys. So in the end, we want it to look very similar to this, but you don't have to have the worksheet to do it. And what we're going to do is we're going to break it down piece by piece. And good, I figured out how to do it. So if you guys will get settled just a little bit and kind of take some big deep breaths and imagine that we are at what is my favorite place, you can imagine where you are going to be. But just kind of give yourself that moment to relax and step into the future summer you, okay? Whatever that's like. And, you can see yourself dressed in that really cool, breathy outfit. that favorite one that you've been waiting to wear that makes you look skinny and shows off your tan, right? So you've got that outfit on, and I'm looking out onto the beach. You might be in a forest surrounded by shade and lushness, but whatever it is, just give yourself that moment to place yourself into that future summer and allow yourself to take in all of those experiences like we talked about before. What are you hearing? What are you feeling? And are your feet touching the ground? Are you able to like crunch your toes in through the sand? Can you hear birds in the distance? Is there warmth? Is the sun on your skin? Or maybe there's, if you're in a cool place, there's a moisture, a feeling about it. Give yourself that moment to be in that summer place. Because as we go through the workshop, I want you to be thinking about the experience that you want to have as if you're in it already. And then on your paper, what we're going to want to do is we're going to draw our circle for the sun. And in the middle of the circle, we are going to write down the desired outcome that you wish to have at the end of the summer. And what I mean by this, as you think about it, is imagine summer's over and you're sitting with your best girlfriend, you're having a cup of coffee or an iced tea afterwards, and you're telling her about your summer. And, what are the highlights that you're going to tell her about? What is the experience that that is going to just light you up, that you're excited to tell her about? You did this, or you did that, or you had this treasured memory. And you're going to write that on in the middle of your circle. And if any of you have followed Tony Robbins, this is how he does his RPM, his planning method, is you start always with a circle. And in the middle of the circle, you write the outcome that you want to have. And this is in your own words. This is whatever it means to you to have that item. And here's the thing, you can do this multiple times. You can have lots of desired outcomes for different areas of your life, but we're focusing on your summer. And then this might be feelings that you want to have. It might be accolades, like something that you achieved at the end of the summer. It might just be the good, strong memory that you want to have. Maybe it's you got so many customers or clients or something. Make it as concrete as you can as well. But then the rays of the sun, write down how you're going to accomplish that. Like, what would be results of that outcome? What would that look like to you? And just, you might only have 2 or 3, you might have more, but there's plenty of rays on there to go all out. And again, you're kind of brainstorming. Think about your list you did already. In order to have that really strong feeling, like, I want to have a really good time with my kids this summer, right? So one of the things I wrote on my list was, when they come home, I want to have all the 4th of July flags out and those summer drinks. Like, maybe I'll have one that could be really fun for when they're here. And we're planting a garden. We planted our watermelon seeds, so maybe those would be ready by then. And just those little things that, like, I can dream up would be goals to have a really fun summer experience with my kids that kind of reminds us of things we did when they were younger. So once you have your outcome down, we're going to go to the next stage in our worksheet. And this doesn't have to take long at all. I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but it just gives us something that's a little bit different, a way to make it fun as you work this out. And so as we think about our summer and all the things that we want to do and that ideal outcome, there's probably something coming up that's darkening the picture a little bit for you. Some limiting belief, some thought in the back of your head that might be keeping you from thinking you're going to be able to accomplish that big thing that you want to do this summer. And whatever that is, you might want to write that word down that comes to mind. What are the things, like, maybe you don't have enough time, Or maybe you don't have any extra resources with money to go down the beach trip, or you live too far away from the beach, right? So, um, whatever word is on there for you, I want you to think about that as your limiting belief that's keeping you from that goal. And you might have several, so keep that in note as well, but we just want to focus on one of them right now. So does somebody have a limiting belief they want to put in the chat and let me know what you're thinking of? I know I was thinking of another goal I have, not with the kids, but it was discipline. That in order for me to have what I'm wanting to accomplish this summer with, I'm going to take the summer off from my community and allow that to be development time for me for what I want to do starting in the fall. And so it's going to take discipline. And I feel like I struggle with that area, not because I'm not disciplined, but because there's so many parts and things I don't know and I need more. And, I start those voices running in my head. So that would be what's in my cloud. And then we're going to go to the next part, which the wonderful thing about clouds is the flip side of the cloud is the silver lining, right? So I want you to almost physically imagine that cloud flipping, and now you have a clean cloud without those problems. And I want you to think instead about the strength you have that you've always used against those types of problems. Because we all have a success model. We all have a blueprint that says, I am able to do something so much different than this. Okay. And so Kate was saying lack of discipline or consistency is one of those things that she struggles with, just like me, right? And it leads to procrastination or disorganization for her. Yeah, so true. But now, if we turn that, that same exact problem is also your strength because you know that about yourself. You probably do a lot of planning. Hence, the reason you're here in this workshop is that you get it, that life can get kind of crazy. And if you don't plan it out, if you don't make a plan for what you're doing, you might not accomplish what you want to have happen. So instead of just ignoring it or pushing it to the side or forgetting that there's something else that you wanted to do, you're taking measures that will help you to not have that issue. All right. And Mary's saying she has to go to another meeting. So thank you. Great. I'd love to connect with you as well. I'm glad you got to catch this part of it, and it will be recorded and I will be posting it up, and I'll make sure you get a copy of it. Okay. Thanks for showing. All right. And so as we were saying, that strength, that maybe planning is your strength, maybe awareness is your strength, so that as you start to see areas where you might start procrastinating or that you're getting disorganized, you can instead say, wait a minute, I choose differently and I'm going to move forward and do something else instead. So now we're going to have our strength, okay? And we're going to use our strength to help us set some goals for that outcome that really are going to set us up for success. And we're going to do that with, some of you, when you saw the graphic, you know what's coming out of the cloud is the lines of the rainbow. And what I was looking for was a rainbow that specifically had 3 arcs to it, because if we just focus on 3 main things at a time, we are more likely to accomplish them. When we make our lists too long, we get overwhelmed, we start shutting down, we start feeling like failures because we're not getting everything. So something I really want to impress upon you as you do any process for goal setting is make it manageable and start at the level where you are and build on that. Don't get too over the top and set those really high goals that you don't get to accomplish right away, because it pulls you down and you lose the momentum. So what I want us to imagine is picking the 3 steps that will give us that desired outcome out of all the ones on the list, that at the end of the summer, It's kind of the three things we're going to talk to our friend about, right? We're not going to tell her every single thing we did on our vacation. We're going to pick out the highlights. And we do that same thing with our desired outcome. We wrote our whole list of all these things that we wanted to do around the race. But what are three that you're going to commit to and write them in the arcs of the rainbow? Okay. And I know that if you're anything like me, there's this thing you're having happen right now where you're like, but I can't just pick three because I want to do all of them. And I feel like if I only do those three, I won't have the kind of summer that I want. I have to do 300. That could very well be true. But there's nothing that says you can't do your three, celebrate, and then start over with another three. And you'll be more energized, more excited, more motivated because you just accomplished three and they made your ideal summer. So now you're going to make it even better than that by doing three more things, and so on and so on and so on. You hear a lot of people talk about rinse and repeat. We can rinse and repeat in our own lives. We don't have to get bogged down with everybody else's way of doing things. We can pick the three things on our list that would make us smile, that would make us excited about our life, and we can focus on them. And when we focus on them and have these excited, energetic moments behind them, we're more likely to accomplish them. And that is bringing us into our next part, which is, where does the rainbow lead us to? It leads us to our bucket. And we want to fill our bucket with those treasures, those experiences, those beautiful rocks. And what we want to imagine from that summer place, right? We're in our summer future persona. We've accomplished the three things that we know were going to give us the outcome we're looking for this summer. And we want to take some time building the treasure, that memory. We're pre-remembering, if you will. We're saying, this is how I'm going to feel. This is what's going to be the outcome of me having this accomplishment. And what you're doing is you are tuning your nervous system into, this is what I want. This is what, when people talk about the law of attraction, it's so hard for some of us to get there because it sounds so magical when people talk about it. You just write it down and it happens. It's not exactly the process. But what does happen is you have to vibrate at the level that takes you up to what it is you want. I've heard some really interesting things that are out there right now, but one of them that they say is God, the universe, whatever it is you believe in, everything you've asked for is waiting for you. But it's up here, and you have to rise to get it. It's not going to come down to where you are and present itself to you. All those things that you want, they're on the path, but you've got to walk the steps to get to it. So when you put it into your field, when you put it in your container, this is what I want to experience and accomplish. You're setting yourself up for the success. And when you attach yourself to it with the emotion, so for me, seeing my three together, like we have 9 children together, Chris and I. So we have 9 adults that are all living their own lives. And the only time all 9 of them have all been together was when we got married. So we don't get to see them all together that often. I have 3 naturals, Chris has the 6, and 3 of them live locally, but my 3 are all in different states. So Houston, one of them, Deborah, and then, but they're all going to come home this summer. So I'm going to have, even if it's just a weekend, I'm going to have hugs and cuddles and precious time with my 3, right? And so I want to make that the most fun experience. I want them to remember this thing when they're sitting at home in their places and maybe it's dreary and cold out in the fall or whatever. And they're like, but you know what? We had a really good time with mom. I want them to have that moment. And I want to have that moment when I'm in a dreary place, when I'm looking at some photos, like that needs to go on my list, right? Like I want a really awesome photo of the 3 of us, Chris and I, doing something that just gets them really excited. And as I'm doing this, as I'm raising my level, I'm thinking of things like there's a lake near us that has this paddleboard experience where everybody gets to rent a paddleboard and you go through the reeds and you're just kind of like, and it's looked like it's a lot of fun, but we haven't been able to do it. So maybe I pick that weekend when I know they're done with their dad that we have a lake day and we do it over there and they could go through and do that. So do you see how you can amplify it? In fact, what we want to do is amplify that feeling on purpose. So as I'm thinking about what I want to do with my kids and when you're thinking about what you want to do as your treasures for your summer, act like you're turning the heat up 10 times and really get jazzed. Like maybe you're so excited by what you did, some accomplishment that you had, that you're getting up and you're dancing, right? Like when you were a kid and you would dance at the bars or whatever in the summer when nothing mattered. And imagine that amplification on this experience. Because again, you're raising that vibration to bring you up to the thing you really want. I hope that's hitting home. I hope that you're starting to understand this. And like I said about this worksheet, you can do this as many different experiences as you want. Just take those treasures and put them in, fill it up, fill your bucket with the things that really matter. And then we're going to solidify it with the sand, the everyday things of life, the things that you know that you need to get done. They're going to happen. They're going to get accomplished. Maybe not everything perfectly, but the things that need to happen will happen. Like you wouldn't be where you are today if life just didn't like get done. So trust that. And that sand in there is going to solidify and make what you want of it. And so you'll be able to have that sand castle. You'll be able to take that bucket, dump it out, and it will be firm and packed in there. And you will be able to have something that you can hang on to. Now, will it last forever? No. The beautiful thing about sandcastles is you put all that time and effort into it. And then the natural process is that parts of it will erode. But you get the memory still. You get to take that with you. And, that's why we have journals and cameras and different things to help it lock in so that you can then go back and enjoy and enjoy and enjoy. And I want that for you so much. And then how I anticipate working on this some more. So we're going to go into a time where you guys can chat with me and kind of think through, and we can work on your lists together. But we are going to be having another masterclass on this topic where we get more in detail into the goal setting part behind this. If you've noticed, I've been doing in April and May, I did my Procrastination to Desired Destination masterclass. And so this is what I'm calling my summer planning edition, where we're just focusing on those summer goals. And so you've had some time to get into this. Maybe you'll be working it some more from now until the end of this month, and you'll come with questions or a way to refine it. I'm doing something different this time, though. Normally, I've been doing them at the 8:30 Eastern time period in the mornings, running them for a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. What I'm going to do for us is I'm going to offer a morning and an evening session. And the evenings are going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 8:30 p.m. in Eastern time. And then the morning, it's the same challenge, but it will be in the morning time. And so whichever time period is better for you based on your time zone and your availability, you can come to the morning or the evening. You can come to both if you want, but it is the same material. So I'm really hoping that you will sign up for that. You can put hashtag masterclass into the chat, and I will make sure that you get added to the list to come to those. So I'd really like to see you there as well. And you can maybe share your experience with the worksheets. We're not going to be going over the worksheets. I'm going to let them have access to this workshop recording at that event, but you will be able to talk about it and share your experiences with it. That would be really awesome. So I see Kate is saying, yeah, that would be good. So thank you, Kate. I appreciate it so much. And then that ends this part of it. I'm going to stop the share of the PowerPoint and answer any questions or thoughts you guys might have for how I can make the class that's coming up be beneficial to you, how I could add more detail to this process, how I could support you in your summer planning. And you're welcome to go on screen too.
I don't know. I'm having internet issues, so I'm going to leave the video off, or
Sure.
I can try,
Yep.
but you might disconnect because, yeah, sorry. But yeah, anything, any guidance you have on procrastination would be amazing for me
Yes.
because I sometimes have a lot of goals, perhaps too many. And then the procrastination comes in as well. So yeah, any guidance on procrastination would just be amazing.
Perfect. Now, have you had a chance to, Deborah's saying the same thing. So yeah, it definitely resonates. Have you had a chance to watch the other master classes?
Not yet. I'm hoping
Okay.
to this coming week, but yeah, I have the links.
Okay. And my thought is that I found this new thing. So I'm going to tell you guys this AI thing is really kind of blowing my mind because there's this new one that somebody mentioned and I went out and tried it and it's called Opus Video. So it might just be Opus Vid. And I'm mad at myself because I've been having computer issues, but I had it up. And so I don't even think it made an account for me. It's just you go in and you upload a video. And as soon as you upload the video, it takes your video and it parses it into, I had 7 less than 1 minute clips with the words at the bottom of what it, and it pulled out good relevant information, like key points I was making in my last live. And I meant to go back and download each one of them and put them up for content. And then I needed to restart my computer and I lost them all. So it's not a huge deal, but I want to go back in and do it with those classes and see what little snippets it can pull out and then put that into my main Facebook profile and start putting those out as come into my community and you'll have access to this From Procrastination to Destination archives. And then I think those would be really good courses for people because in that first class, I really talked about what is procrastination. And see, Tony Robbins says that high achievers don't like to call it procrastination. We call it stressed or overwhelmed. And we don't even see it. We just say that we're too busy, but we don't recognize that that's really a form of procrastination because what we're doing is we're saying, I want this thing, but I'm pretty much deciding before it even starts that I can't accomplish it. So I'm going to allow all the other stuff in the world to confuse me and cause me not to address it.
Uh-huh.
Powerful, right? And so it's like, ooh. So if you identify with procrastination, great, you're seeing it, you're at a level where you see that awareness, but there's so much other stuff that goes on behind the surface that's delaying us from going forward. And if we don't work on the mindset piece, we won't ever get out of the cycle because it's almost like it's a habit that we've allowed to happen in our life that's keeping us from reaching what we want.
Yeah, yeah, so true. Thank you.
Yep, yep. Well, I really appreciate you guys being here. I'm sorry about technical issues, and I'm going to be working on that. What's happened is, I never thought this would be possible. I filled up my hard drive, and
Oh,
so yeah, so I'm going to have to take off all of the material that I've been putting on it and store it on the side. And like you talked about, Kate, disorganization. I'm terrified that I'm going to lose all the stuff that I've been doing because the little thumb drive is so easy to lose versus my computer, right? So
uh,
I'm learning new things. I'm going on new adventures and trying new experiences. So going
yes.
to make sure that I don't lose any of this information and that my summer is going to be uh, full of all the things that I want it to have, which
Yeah, yeah.
includes being more organized. So
Same.
Yep. I think that's been my goal for 50 some years, that ever since I knew what organization was, I looked around and went, wait a minute, this is not going like everybody else seems to be doing it. So anyway, you guys, I've really appreciated you being here, and I'm going to go ahead and end the recording for sure. All right, you guys, hi. I hope that that was enjoyable and that you enjoyed the replay. Make sure you put in the comments #replay if you haven't already. And if you would be so accommodating as to give me a review, your feedback on this session, I would really appreciate it. I will be sending you a link if you put in the replay to get to that feedback. Thanks so much.